What am I going to do?
No idea.
Got it! I will
Burn
negotiate.
down the house and blame Winston Churchill. Or negotiate.
If I tell on you, you'll be in big trouble.
They'll never win.
Love is the strongest thing in the world.
Your mother took me in. She's kind. She treats me like a person.
You two seem to be getting on well.
She doesn't seem like a bad person.
Hello everybody and welcome once again to the Moviescramble podcast. I am Thomas and John, how are you?
Very well, Thomas, very well indeed. Thursday evening, it's miserable and it's a perfect time of year for watching lots and lots and lots of films and television, so I'm reasonably happy. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty much, but as you say, the weather is absolutely miserable and you start getting used to it. It just gets worse and worse, and I was in East Kilbride today, and as you know, East Kilbride has its own little ecosystem.
Yep.
So whatever weather you get in Glasgow, East Kilbride gets it 3,000.
Yes, I used to live in Cumbernauld and it's pretty much the same. A town built on top of a hill with its own climate. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think there's some kind of ancient druid curse on these places.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Really wouldn't.
And if you're interested in ancient druids and curses and cults and stuff, we have a previous podcast that you can find in the Moviescramble archives about cults. That's cults, C-U-L-T, not what you might have thought I said. And speaking of cults, our film we're going to be reviewing tonight is revolving Nazis. So there's a wee twist to it though. It's a comedy. No, a comedy about Nazis. It's not something you don't really think of comedies when you think of Nazis. It's not something that really kind of evokes humour and joy. But this is a film I felt did. It's of course Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi. The movie tells the story of Jojo. He's a lonely German boy who discovers that his single mother, Scarlett Johansson, is hiding a Jewish girl in their attic. Aided only by his imaginary friend, Adolf Hitler, Jojo must confront his blind nationalism as World War II continues to rage on. When I first seen the trailer for this, taken away who directed it, I was very, very intrigued. It just looked very unique. I was curious to how they could pull this off as a comedy. And seeing who did direct it, it did ramp up my interest in it, because I think Taika Waititi is a great director. He's the kind of guy that I will go and see a film just because he's directed it. With this, I hate the word quirky. I hate to describe something. It is very lazy. It does fit when it comes to this, and it is genuinely funny. It's really dark. I enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a very fascinating film with an incredible cast, and I'm not really too sure how it made me feel, to be fair, when it was finished. It was a film I really had to digest and think about. But what did you think about it, John, when you went to see it?
I thought it was quite a clever film in that it starts off with sort of full-on comedy with Jojo and his imaginary friend Adolf getting themselves pumped up to go in the Hitler Youth Camp. And the Hitler Youth Camp is a series of like montages and sort of funny moments that introduce some of the supporting cast. So you're in a certain mindset already. It's fun, it's light. And then, as you say, it takes a couple of small dark turns and then it gets really, really kind of bleak for a while as well, and then it seems to cut into that with little quirky moments. Again, as you say, quirky is a word that you wouldn't normally associate with a comedy about Nazis, but it seems to fit here. I think that is down to the writing, the direction and the strength of the cast. Definitely is. I mean, if you look at some of the people that's involved. You've got Sam Rockwell, Scarlett Johansson, Stephen Merchant as well in a small role as a Gestapo officer who he's comedic but also very sinister at the time. It's quite a compelling short, almost like a cameo performance, but it's still very, very good. I really, really enjoyed this film. And I thought, yes, I was the same sort of idea as yourself. I didn't really know what to make of it when I heard about it, but then when you see the trailers, you think this is something a wee bit different. Because usually with Nazis and comedies, they are very full-on comedies. Yeah, I'm thinking more of sort of Mel Brooks type of films here, but this was a little more subtle in that he started off as a comedy Hitler to begin with, but as it progressed, changed slightly and things got a little more serious, shall we say, without giving too much away. So what did you think about the main sort of overall storyline of it? obviously the young boy and everything, very impressionable. What did you think of him?
Yeah, I thought he was great, and it was a very coming of age story, wasn't it? It just happened to be set against the backdrop of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Where you've got this kid who's got this kind of nationalist innocence where he doesn't really seem to understand what a Nazi is. He doesn't understand the ramifications of the ideology and the evil they're actually inflicting on the world. He just sees them as these larger than life characters that are protecting his country, and he aspires to be. And it's also very telling as well that he doesn't have a father figure in the film, and as much as his mother does an incredible job, and the character Scarlett Johansson plays is absolutely fantastic, and her performance is excellent, he is missing that father figure to the extent that he creates one in Adolf Hitler, a person that he idolises. And it's very telling that his version of Hitler is a bit goofy, it's a bit comical. It's how a kid would see an adult.
Yeah, he's just like a 10-year-old boy. He's a sponge. He just wants to have fun. And when you see all this stuff happening, saying how we're winning the war and this is how we're doing it, and they've got the uniforms and everything for the Hitler Youth, it is like an adventure for him. So he's totally taking it in. The way his mother reacts to it, even though she is opposed to the whole idea of the Nazis and the war, she doesn't dissuade him. One reason for that is perhaps she might get denounced, but another reason is because she loves her son. She remembers her son before he get involved in all this, and he's just a sweet, innocent little boy, and he just wants to play and run about. And she's hoping that by trying to subtly teach him what is actually going on, the truths, that he will mature at some point and return to her. She sees that he's being manipulated, but she's trying to sort of find out a way to sort of get him back. And another part of that, like you said, they've got the Jewish girl hiding in their attic. She's constantly worried. You can see that all the time about her. She's always on edge, no matter how calm and glammed up she looks. She's always worried about what's going to happen next, and you can see that in her eyes, and that's all Scarlett Johansson's performance. It's just a fantastic piece of work from her.
Yeah, she is brilliant at the best of times, and she's absolutely outstanding in this. As is the entire cast in general. You kind of mentioned the Jewish girl there, Elsa, played by Thomasin McKenzie, and she's great as well because, again, she's a child, a bit older than Jojo, but this is somebody whose innocence has been taken from her, and she's forced to hide from a nation that doesn't even see her as a human being. And in many ways, Jojo, his innocence has also been taken, but in a completely different way. He's in what he believes the right side of history.
Yes, yeah. It's all the indoctrination about Jewish people, how they had scales, and because one of them mated with a fish at some point, that's what they said, and just all the things, they have bat wings and they eat children, all this sort of stuff to turn them against him. So when he actually encounters a Jewish person, he doesn't know what to do initially. He believes all the propaganda that he's been told, but then he starts to slowly realise that she is just a girl, a couple of years older than him, but yes, she's coming from a very different perspective because of what she's seen and what she's been through, whereas he's been completely sheltered from it. He's led an idealistic life at this point. Small village, everything seems very warm and happy. And the war seems very, very far away, so he believes everything that he's been told. Yeah, I thought it was particularly good. I like the German characters, and it's Sam Rockwell as Captain Kleinsendorf, and Alfie Allen as Finkel, his right-hand man. I thought Finkel was almost like a grown-up Jojo character. It was somebody who's obviously an adult, but he fully believes in what he's doing, but he's still a wee bit naive, and he's hanging on the coattails of somebody who he idolises. He obviously idolises the Sam Rockwell character in this. And there's a sort of comparison there between a sort of an adult and a child who are still sort of caught up in the same ideological troubles, if you like. So I thought that was particularly good. And then obviously you've got Rebel Wilson, who just kind of knocked it out of the park as this sort of full-on, almost like a zealot. A Nazi zealot, if you like, because she was talking about having 14 children or something by the time this sort of stuff.
For the fatherland.
And everything she does is completely deadpan, because there's a scene quite early on where Jojo is given a job, is wanting to do a job, so he's given all these leaflets, and he says, I wish I could go and fight at the front, and his mother says, yeah, that's fine, you go and fight at the front, and of course then the Rebel Wilson character tries to give him a gun. she just looks at him. And she can't understand what she's doing wrong because, but this is right, the boy wanted a gun.
Exactly.
It's fairly comical. It's aye. But yes, it goes beyond just pure comedy, though. It does touch on some fairly serious subjects. And I mean, it is relevant for these sort of times, even though it wasn't written specifically with all the stuff that's been going on in the last couple of years. I think he said he wrote it about 10 years ago, and he's been working on it ever since. I've heard in interviews that Taika Waititi that it is particularly relevant, but that wasn't the intention. The intention was just to tell a story. But it obviously hits home for a lot of people at the moment. Now, obviously, because it's been very popular, and it's obviously up for a number of awards as well. So, more power to him.
Yeah, definitely, and it has been quite popular, and it's been very successful in the nomination front, at least. It's been quite polarising as well, as I think the general consensus is it's been critically acclaimed. However, when you look at the actual reviews from the most notable names, for example, it has been quite polarising. Even people I've spoke to have found a lot of fault with it and just didn't like it. They found that it was very tonally jarring, and I disagree. And I disagree with that because the film, for the most part, when you see it through the comedy and things, you've got this idiot idea of Hitler. You've got Stephen Merchant's Raiders of the Lost Ark style cartoon bad guy. It's through the eyes of a 10-year-old boy. It's through the eyes of a child who has seen things how he would see them. But you can't hide the fact that there is a nightmare happening right in front of him, and that's always going to bleed through to his fantasy.
Yes, yeah. Eventually, he can't really control what he's exposed to and what he sees, and he does come round to it. And obviously, this isn't giving away anything in the story at all. We're not really going into any sort of spoiler territory here, but yes, obviously the light tone doesn't last forever, and he does eventually have to start seeing things through the eyes of Elsa and the others that are around him, and his mother as well. So yeah, I think you're right there. Obviously, Mary wrote the review for the site, and she absolutely loved the film. She thought it was pretty spectacular. Something that could have been a bit twee, a bit strange, turned out to be an absolutely fantastic film. If you want to have a look at our review, it's on the site, moviescramble.co.uk. Give it a view. Tell us what you think.
Exactly, leave some comments. I want to go back to your saying about Alfie Allen's Finkel, almost like a grown-up Jojo, and I kind of felt the same regarding Sam Rockwell's Captain Klenzendorf. Yes. And he's almost like the realistic depiction of the fantasy that Jojo believes in. Jojo believes in this idea of like a soldier, in his case, being honourable in the medals and fighting for the fatherland and protecting Germany. Yeah. And Sam Rockwell, to an extent, does believe that, but he's washed up.
Yes.
He's been demoted from his post. He's not allowed to fight in the front line. And he knows the war's over. He's realistic, and I don't know what it is with Sam Rockwell recently, playing these kind of like Nazi racist characters that you find very endearing.
Yeah.
To me, he's the most underrated actor working. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's outstanding. I thought it was incredible in this. Absolutely incredible. He's genuinely funny. He's very likeable, which is difficult when you're dealing with a Nazi captain.
Yes, yeah. He did the same on television last year when he was in Fosse Verdon, when he played Bob Fosse. Now, Bob Fosse is a character who's obviously a genius in terms of musicals and like anything to do with that, anything like all the dancing and everything, but he was a horrible, horrible human being. But the portrayal of him by Sam Rockwell was just absolutely spot on. It was engaging and you wanted to know more about the character, and a lot of that had to do with Sam Rockwell's performance. He made him likeable in a certain way, even though he was a horrible individual. It's quite something, and he does pretty much the same here. It's a character that you wouldn't normally really sort of like, but I think some of it to do with the fact that he didn't follow the party line a lot of the time. He was his old man. As you say, he was it's almost like an old school honourable German soldier who just got caught up in the fact that the Nazis were taking over, and he knew what he had to do in order to survive, and all he wanted to do was fight. But as you say, he couldn't because he kept getting demoted for various accidents that seemed to have been one involving his eye and another involving a hand grenade.
I mean, it's very comical. It's supposed to be comical. You're supposed to laugh at it. There's nothing distasteful about the jokes. We're laughing at the Nazis. We're not laughing with them.
Yes, there's stupid things like Hitler keeping offering Jojo cigarettes, and eventually
Yeah.
Jojo has to say, "I'm 10 years old, stop offering me cigarettes." You know? It's just
If you see him,
it's comedy.
he's sitting at the dinner table, he's eating the unicorn's head, and it's
Yeah.
just...
Yeah,
Again,
that rolls back to an earlier joke when he said, "I'm having unicorn for dinner tonight," and then you see it. Yeah, it's just
It is going back to how a 10-year-old would see a bad person.
Mhm.
Like the cigarette thing you just touched on there. Like Jojo knows he's too young to smoke.
yeah,
It's something a
absolutely.
bad guy, it's something a bad person would do. It was almost a matter of time before Hitler was offering them sweets in a Ridley's car. You know, it was only how he could perceive evil.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to touch back on Sam Rockwell quickly.
Huh?
I'm going to jump back a wee bit as well. You were saying about he portrayed that character in the TV show last year. I was also
Yes.
thinking of Three Billboards when he played
of course.
the racist, and he had some redemption in that film, and people were not happy at all with that character's portrayal. But I thought the film was excellent. I really liked him in it. I love his character in this, and this isn't a spoiler. You actually see it in the trailer. But when he's designing his costume, and you see his costume for battle,
Yeah,
and
of course.
he's got the cape, and Finkel's holding the gramophone as the music's playing, and at that point the films took a really dark turn, and there's still these kind of flashes of colour in the finale, and it's really clever how to do it. I didn't think it was jarring, to be fair. I mean, it did contrast, it was deliberate, and it made you get a certain emotion. I mean, again, not talking about spoilers, but there's one particular scene that just takes the wind out yourselves.
Yes.
But that's the intention of it. It's supposed to.
Yes, I know the scene you're talking about. Well, some people interpreted it as being slightly trivialising certain facts of things that happened in sort of German towns during the war, but I thought it had a real impact. I really thought, oh, that's something that ideally you wouldn't want to see, and you wouldn't want a 10-year-old child to see either. So yeah, good stuff.
I mean, it goes back to that theme we were talking about, though, that it's through Jojo's point of view. It's from his perspective. He's seeing things. It's not a social commentary on Nazi Germany. It's not a documentary on the time. It's a very unique perspective of how things were, and again, I don't know what people. It's not a favourable look either. It's very, very clear that it's not intended to be anything other than a damning indictment of this horrific time.
Oh, definitely yes.
But speaking of the humour in it, I give a particular shout out to Archie Yates as Yorkie.
Yep.
Jojo's best friend in it. That character was absolutely delightful every time you seen him.
Spot on. He was a lovely wee boy who had nothing bad about him whatsoever. He was just absolutely great. Yeah, it was a great performance. Both of the child performances in this, the two small boys, were absolutely brilliant. I think Taika Waititi's got a bit of a track record for getting performances out of children. So, yes, I think more power to him.
What did you think Waititi's Hitler?
It was far enough removed from people's idea of Hitler that it was comical, because that's the whole thing about sort of comedy Hitlers. It has to be a real sort of caricature. So with him wearing the brown uniform and the jodhpurs and all this sort of stuff, yes, it made him seem comical, but then there was manoeuvrability within the character so that it could turn dark quite easily. I thought it was a very sort of well thought out portrayal, and it wasn't overused within the film. It could have been there a lot more. It was held back for obviously just moments between Jojo and his imaginary friend, rather than having him there all of the time. It could have been a bit intrusive after a while, and it could have got a bit boring, but because it was used quite sparingly, it was more effective.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so what did you think then? Would you recommend this film?
I would definitely recommend it, yeah. It was funny because when I went to see it in the cinema, a lot of people took their children, and I remember thinking at the start, I remember looking about and going, this would be a good film for them to see, but it's probably not the film you'd been expecting to see.
No, the trailer's got something to do with that, I think, because it makes it out to be a reasonably light film. And as I said, it does start lightly, but it would be interesting to see how small children would actually react to this film. Maybe they wouldn't get some of the subtleties that were on screen, but you never know. I just don't know. I would definitely recommend this film. I think it was one of the better ones that I've seen over the last month or so, and I think it might get attention at the award ceremonies, if not actual any awards. It's no bad thing, really. It gives Mr. Waititi more power and more scope for doing interesting work in the future. Obviously after the next Thor film, but I'd like to see where he goes next with his own work. Should be good.
Well, Akira's still in the pipeline, and the fact that it looks like it's going to happen this time,
Yeah.
and he's in charge of it. It's a film I've been wanting to see made live action for, how old am I now? Decades I've been waiting to see this live action version with him at the helm and his ideas for it and the things he's been talking about it. I'm all in on it.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's a recommend from me, a recommend from John, and even though Mary is absent this evening, as John mentioned, she absolutely loved it. Please go and check out a review, leave a comment on the website, leave a comment on this podcast as well, and as usual, you can get us on social media. Let us know what you thought of Jojo Rabbit. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Were you indifferent towards it? I'd be surprised if you're indifferent towards it. People seem to have strong feelings either way, but again, like I said, let us know what you think on Jojo Rabbit. Continuing on from the theme of Jojo Rabbit, we decided to compile our top 3 of imaginary friends in movies. Now, as you know, we like to operate a draft system so as not to have any overlap. Although there was one I would have picked the same as John did, there wasn't much overlap in our list this time, was there?
Not at all, no. There's surprisingly quite a number. Once you do a wee bit of research, there's a number of films with these sort of characters in them, and if you make it broad enough and that they may not be completely friendly all the time, then there is a wee bit of scope for a little adventure in terms of your picks. Yeah, you're right. I think even if Mary had joined us, we would have still managed to get quite easily 3 separate ones each. Would have been okay.
Exactly, that's a topic as well. When we first discussed it, I was like, one right away came to mind. We'll go into it soon. But with other stuff, I was like, oh wait a minute, does that count? And then when the ball was rolling, it was very easy to think of suggestions. But I'm looking forward to this one. It's been an interesting topic.
Okay, I'll go first. My first choice is Tyler Durden from the film Fight Club, which was released in 1999, based on the Chuck Palahniuk novel of the same name. Tyler Durden is the imaginary friend of the unnamed narrator of the film. Tyler Durden in the film is played by Brad Pitt, and the narrator is Edward Norton, and everything is seen from the perspective of Edward Norton. He meets Tyler on a plane and he declares him his best single-serving friend that he's ever met, to which Tyler just sort of looks at him and says, well, that's very funny, yeah, very sarcastically. From there, meet a number of times again, end up living with each other, even though obviously it's just the one person. And by the way, I'm completely spoiling this film for anybody that hasn't seen it. But it's 21 years old, Club, for goodness sake, yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Fight Club or you don't know the end of that Fight Club, but I find when it comes to spoilers, it's pop culture now.
Yeah, so basically Tyler is everything that the narrator is not. He's handsome, he's rather devilish, he's clever, he is basically a go-getter, and together they start up this fight club, basement of a bar, where the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And it goes on from there, and it turns into a bit of a paramilitary organisation in the second half of the film. The character of Tyler is just amazing because he's so full on at all times, and Brad Pitt looks as if he had an absolute ball with this character. For the most part of the film, most people don't realise that he isn't really there. There's no real obvious signs to begin with, and it just kind of creeps in as the story unfolds, and you kind of get a sense of, well, there's something not quite right about this guy. It's just not playing out as you think, but it's fantastic. It's a great film, and it's a really, really great character.
I can't agree with you enough. Fight Club is one of my favourite films. Tyler Durden's easily in my top 10 favourite film characters ever. I love Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but for me, this is his greatest role ever. He's incredible in it. He's absolutely amazing. He looks incredible. He acts incredible. I mean, I remember there was a scene in the film when they're looking at a poster and he's like, is that what a man should look like? Tyler Durden is what a man should be. You know, it's like, just look at him in the film. He's just effortlessly cool.
Yes.
He's got a very unique style to him that only he can pull off. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of the film. He's supposed to be the narrator's alter ego. He's what he hopes to be. He's the epitome of his ego, so to speak. And yeah, you just say that you're watching the film, you don't realise he's not there until you do, and you're just like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And if people say they do see it coming, I'm very suspicious, very sceptical of that one. As you say, there's not really any kind of clear clues. It's not until you see the film a couple of times and you see wee kind of snippets here and there and things are implemented in there stylistically. But yeah, I love the film. Absolutely love it. Great choice.
Okay, your first choice?
I'm going to go with a film that first introduced me to the imaginary friend concept. This is a film I first watched when I was young. I grew up loving it from my childhood. Was scared that if I rewatched it as an adult, I wouldn't like it. Thankfully I did, and I got a lot more from it. I am talking about 1991's Drop Dead Fred. I absolutely adore this film. For those who haven't seen it, it stars Rick Mail as the title character, Drop Dead Fred. He's a happy, anarchic, mischievous imaginary friend of a young girl, Elizabeth. She grows up to be Phoebe Cates. As most people do when they've got imaginary friends as a child, they grow up, they forget about them. They don't need them anymore. They have real friends, they've got a life, they've got issues. But she's having a bit of a crisis in her life. Her boyfriend's left her. She gets sacked from her job. She has to go back and live with her mother, who's really controlling. And Fred comes back into her life. The difference is this time, she's an adult. And she's like that imaginary friend causing chaos and havoc and blaming her for everything. People think she's insane. People think she's totally crazy. And she starts to think it. And even when you watch it, you think, well, is she? Is Fred really there? Or is she insane? I'm not saying this film kind of like is like Fight Club anyways, but you get the impression that Fred really is kind of there in his own way. There's more evidence to suggest that than not. Rick Mail is fantastic in this role. He's an excellent actor, great comedian, great comedy timing, very, very sadly missed. And it's a very overlooked role, I think. He was always very known for his British work, his British comedy. This is very much an American film, but he is playing the Rick Mail we all know and love. Yeah. He's playing the character we expect to be playing. Phoebe Cates is excellent as well. She's very likeable in this movie, and it is easy to feel sorry for her. Nothing ever goes her way, and you just keep thinking she needs to get a break at some point. And like I said, Fred's just intent in causing chaos. And Carrie Fisher's in this film as well. She plays Elizabeth's friend. And there's a scene, spoiler alert, on Carrie Fisher's character's got a houseboat and Fred sinks it. Who gets to blame it? Elizabeth. But it's a very sweet film and it's very endearing as well. And although Fred is totally insane, he does try and help her be the person she should be. And like I say, it's kind of one of the films, you watch it as a kid, you get the kind of stupid humour. You watch it as an adult, you realise there's actually deeper themes to it. This is a film that was critically panned when it came out. It's got a bit of a cult following. Merciless. So it's got a bit of a cult following now, and I think people look at it a lot more kind of favourably now as when it once did. But if you haven't seen it, I won't say too much more about it. I would highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Rick Mail. He's just great in this, absolutely great. You do watch it now, and you do really miss him.
He is obviously very sadly missed. I thought it was a great performance from Rick Mail. He obviously totally overpowered everything else within the film, but that was the whole point of it. The character of Drop Dead Fred was supposed to be larger than life and pretty much the same sort of idea as the Fight Club film as well. It's everything that she isn't. She was quiet and reserved, and as you say, it was to try and get her to find her voice again. Fred actually came back. No, I think it's an excellent choice. Very, very good indeed.
I think we should do an article on our podcast on how Fight Club is a gritty reboot of Drop Dead Fred.
There's probably far too many similarities for it to be just a coincidence, yeah.
Both are quite smartly dressed, are quite sharp dressers.
Right, my number 2 choice is one that immediately came to mind when we talked about imaginary friends. It is The Beaver, from the 2011 Jodie Foster film, The Beaver, starring famed misogynist, anti-Semite, alcoholic Mel Gibson, who took on this role apparently to try and start his career again after various troubles that he had in the first decade of 2000s. Basically, the story follows a man. Foster is at the end of his tether. He has basically a lot of problems with his business. He has problems with his wife and his sons, and he just is at the end, and he tries to kill himself a couple of times, and one of the times when he tries to kill himself, he ends up in a dumpster. And in this dumpster, he finds this beaver hand puppet. And as soon as he puts the hand puppet on, it starts speaking to him in a Cockney accent. very like Ray Winston. And the beaver starts telling him what to do, and it's through the beaver that he starts to try and rebuild his life. He doesn't speak at all after that. It's always the beaver that does the talking for him. He starts to make him a nicer person. He gets himself back on track, and he obviously tries to rebuild his life. But of course, there's always the dark side. He was obviously in a bad place to begin with, and that something like that doesn't go away, as it doesn't in real life for a number of people as well. So the film takes a couple of twists and turns, and actually has a reasonably downbeat ending, to be perfectly honest. But it's a cracking performance, I think, basically because it's off the wall. It's not something that you would really think of. It's an extension of a character's persona again, and it's something really that you have to sit down and watch to actually realise that somebody had the balls to make a film like this in the first place.
See, I remember when the film was getting first promoted, it was still in production, and it was kind of news released about it and that, and I thought to myself, this is quite interesting, because Mel Gibson is in need of a career renaissance here. Jodie Foster directing it, that's interesting, and I never seen it. I never got to see it, but I don't think it did too well. I think it was pretty panned, wasn't it?
It did really, really badly, yes, in terms of the opening weekend. It made only $5,000 per theatre on a $21 million budget, and it was something like 3,000 locations it opened in, so it did not do very well at all, and it kind of put his comeback back a wee bit. It's quite strange because if you look at the cast of it now, obviously you've got Jodie Foster behind the camera, you've got Mel Gibson, you've got Anton Yelchin, and you've got Jennifer Lawrence in quite an early role as well. So it's a fairly decent cast, and obviously it's quite a powerful story. And I think as time goes on, all it needs is maybe for a wee re-release or somebody to champion it again, and it will get reassessed, because it is quite a good film. It's just, it got caught up in all the stuff that was surrounding Mel Gibson at the time, and a lot of that was obviously very negative towards him, so that kind of spilled over into publicity for the film, and the fact that people didn't really want to go out and support something that he was doing because of his behaviour.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep. So yes.
I will keep an eye out for it though, because I'm curious about it. I said I didn't hear anything good about it, but your recommendation has intrigued me, so to speak, so I shall check it out.
Right, so choice number 2, my friend.
I have went with the movie Inside Out, and I'm going to give a bit of background in the film if you haven't seen it. It's about a young girl, Riley, who has transitioning basically from kind of being a little girl to that kind of pre-teen stage where her emotions are starting to change and her hormones are starting to come to the fore, and she has these little personified emotions in her head. There are 5 personalities. They're quite basic. They're very childlike. Joy, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger. And they kind of influence her life, especially with Joy, because she's a little girl, everything's happy and stuff in her life. But as she gets older, and things start to change, the emotions start to fight for control. Joy and sadness, especially, they get lost in the annals of her mind and try to get back to headquarters in her brain to stop her from being miserable, basically, for the rest of her life. They're not the imaginary friends I'm speaking of in this movie, though. The imaginary friend was actually Riley's imaginary friend, long forgotten, the character of Bing Bong. Now, John, have you seen Inside Out?
I've seen about half of it, but I don't remember. It was a long time ago I actually saw it.
Because I was going to mention this here, but it's spoilery.
No, go ahead. I'm up for spoilers for Inside Out. Don't worry about
that. If anybody hasn't seen Inside Out and they're scared of a spoiler, and judging by my tone, you probably know it's not going to be a good one. So please skip or pause and go and watch it, whatever you do. If you don't care, if you've seen it, please continue on. There's a scene when Joy's stuck and they've got this cart, this kind of old red wagon type thing, I believe, from memory, and they're using this to try and kind of jump a ramp. The problem is Bing Bong and Joy both in the ramp. It's too heavy. So Bing Bong is pushing the cart and then kind of jumps out at the last minute. Joy takes off and escapes, and she turns around to see Bing Bong just fade from existence because he's no longer needed as an imaginary friend. Riley has grown up from this part of her life. First he was just forgotten, now he no longer exists, and it's one of the most saddest and harrowing moments I've ever seen in a movie, let alone a Pixar film.
Wow.
I did not see it coming. I was not expecting it. And I'm sitting watching the movie, and I'm loving this character. Voiced by Richard Kind. It's very amusing. He's very lovable. He's very daft and likeable, and just look at him. He's a great wee character. And then this scene happens, and it makes perfect sense for the script. It makes amazingly perfect sense, but you just don't see it coming, and it's handled so delicately and so well. You're just like, oh my god, you just feel the tears welling. So I need to. He's not the main character. He's not even in the film much, but I have to give a special shout out to Bing Bong.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll definitely need to revisit it.
It's a great film, it really is, and the ending is excellent. It's really funny. It's very poignant. It's exactly what you expect from Pixar, and I would definitely recommend it. It's one of Pixar's favourite films, in my opinion. It was one of my films of the year in 2015. Hilarious, thought-provoking, poignant, sad. It's got everything, absolutely everything, and it's one of those kind of films that plenty of jokes for adults that will go over kids' heads. Especially as there's, not to go into too much spoilers, too much about Inside Out, there's a scene that show you the emotions in the mum's head, then the emotions in the dad's head.
Yeah, that's quite early on, isn't it?
It's just absolutely comic genius.
Yeah, I remember
that. I'll stop talking about Inside Out. John, what's your third pick?
My third pick is Harvey, the 1950 film featuring character of Harvey, a 6 foot 3.5 inch invisible rabbit who is the friend of Elwood P. Dowd, who's played by James Stewart. Now, Harvey is a puka, which is a creature from Celtic mythology, and he befriends people and does mischievous things. Now, with Elwood, he goes to bars and he sits and they have a drink and they talk to people and they just have a generally good time. Now, obviously, as an imaginary friend goes, he's not on the screen at any time because he's completely invisible, but he's a massive presence in this film because the way that James Stewart plays the part of Elwood, he's a very amiable, very gentle man. Now, that could be taken in a way that he's always been like that, but there's certain hints that he was a different type of man and he's changed, so he's become more pleasant. Something may have happened, something may have broken within him. Now, he's got a family around him who love him, but are also very concerned about the fact that he's hanging about with this invisible rabbit and takes him everywhere he goes. And they try to get psychiatric help for him, get him institutionalized. And what actually happens is the main psychiatrist befriends Harvey as well. and in a lovely wee scene, he starts to talk to him. He eventually sees him, which is just delightful. It's one of these films from the tail end of the sort of screwball era. It's not terribly deep, but you can actually read a lot of themes into it. In a lot of ways, it's like what you were saying about Rob Dead Fred. There are different levels that you can take from these films. You can just take superficial laugh elements from it. There are things working underneath. It's one of these films you can watch a couple of times because you get more from it each time, not just on the performance level, but also on the story and the theme level as well. It's an absolutely excellent movie. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I've seen it once. It was years ago. I believe recorded it off maybe Channel 5 or something. It was. I'm sure. In fact, it was like Christmas time. And I always remember seeing it pop up and I was working, so I thought I might just record that. And I kind of sat, as things tend to do, sat in the box for ages. And I'd heard of the film through when Donnie Darko first came out. People made parallels with it from the imagery of Donnie having an imaginary friend, Frank.
Yes.
It was a big rabbit. And people say that it was clearly influenced by Harvey. It wasn't a film I expected when I watched it. The themes of it, the tones of it, how sad it was at times as well. It was a cracking film. I really liked it. James Stewart's, it's a brilliant performance. Yeah, I could say I couldn't tell you a lot of like details of the film other than the themes, but yeah, I loved it. I thought it was really good. I didn't realise it was as old as that, but wow, that's
black and white.
70 years old.
Yep. I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, definitely recommend that. Anybody who's not watched that, go back and see it. It's a cracking film.
So, your last choice?
Yes, my third and final choice. I am going to go with a character that I believe in the credits was credited as the mentor. This was the Elvis Presley inspired character from True Romance, played by Val Kilmer. In True Romance, Christian Slater's Clarence falls in love with Patricia Arquette's Alabama. She's a call girl, but he doesn't care about that. They do want to make a fresh start. He goes and kills a pimp and ends up falling foul of the local drug lords and gangsters in his chase through the country. He's got his drugs that he's accidentally stolen and he tries to kind of sell them, and he just gets into one kind of mishap after another. Through the film, he's got a imaginary friend who looks and acts very suspiciously to Elvis Presley. This shouldn't be a surprise, being that Clarence is a massive fan of Elvis. But like I said, in the film, he's credited as mentor. He only appears on screen out of focus in the background, and it's when Clarence has got some time himself and he goes to the toilet when he's washing his hands, but any time as himself, he'll speak to the mentor who will give him some advice on what to do in his life. It's a very strange role. It's a very strange character for a film that is very rooted in realism. It's very gritty. It's got its kind of light moments as well, but this character just kind of like comes and goes, offering Clarence with some life advice and what he should do. And you forget it's Val Kilmer playing this part, and Val Kilmer did want to play the part of Clarence, and Tony Scott didn't want him for it, but really did want him in this role. He's great. He's absolutely great. It's just a very overlooked role. Yeah, that's my third pick.
It's an excellent choice. It's good that the mentor character, as you say, is always seen just slightly out of focus and everything. It is very much, it's almost like something sitting on his shoulder telling him, oh, this is what you should be doing. And it's not always good advice. I mean, he gave him the initial advice he gives him is to go and kill a drug dealer. So it's not, it's...
Yeah, I think I remember the dialogue. He says something like, get away with it's the easy part. It's the killing that's hard.
Yeah.
He's talking him into doing this murder. And it's almost like a kind of his conscience in a way, but as you say, it's not necessarily a Jiminy Cricket style conscience saying don't do bad things. It's like do these things because they will help you in life, they will make you feel better. And there's a cracking scene, I think it's the last time you see the mentor, and again it's like an out of focus bloody shot, and he just kind of gives Clarence the Elvis point, that famous iconic point, and says, Clarence, I love you. So I like you. Always have. Then you never see him again. Elvis has left the building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Val Kilmer, man, he's really good in some of these bit roles that he tended to pop up in sort of mid-career. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic choice. Well done. Yeah, nicely done.
And I would say it's like apart from The Beaver is the only film I haven't seen out of all these ones we've done. We don't always pick top threes of movies we like. It may just be a character we like or a theme. In this case, I would recommend all these movies. Go and see them all.
Oh, definitely, yes. As you say, they may not be the definitive top three. Well, they never are in any of the categories we seem to cover, but it's all very personal choice.
That's us finished with our top three. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, I didn't get a chance to take to social media, ask you lovely people what your top three imaginary friends and movies were. It doesn't mean I'm not interested though, so please contact us on social media at Moviescramble or on Facebook, even Instagram. Again, you can email John. We'll get to that in a minute. I know he's got some exciting news. But please let us know your imaginary friends, your top three imaginary friends and movies as well, because like as John said, it's when you think about it, there's a lot of great films out there and a lot of great choices. We've only kind of scratched the surface. Please tell us yours. I had a look at some movie news today, just kind of scrolling Facebook. I said I looked at movie news, I was scrolling Facebook and this popped up. So much so I had to double take because I wasn't too sure if it was actually real or not. And it kind of links on nicely to your talk about Mel Gibson earlier and that kind of career renaissance. I don't know if this would be the movie to do it. I think every so often he goes through a kind of little career dip and a comeback. But there's talks, very strong rumours are going to make a Lethal Weapon 5. Now, if you're a fan of It's All Sin in Philadelphia, you know they've already made Lethal Weapon 5 and 6. This would be 7. But if you're not, let's treat it as 5. If you don't know what I'm talking about, It's All Sin in Philadelphia, or if you have seen this show, you've not seen an episode yet, go and watch it on YouTube. It's brilliant. It's absolutely genius. But yeah, Lethal Weapon 5, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover. Turns out maybe they aren't too old for this shit and they're going to return for a fifth film. I love the first Lethal Weapon. I've not seen the second one in a long time, but I think I enjoy it more now than I did then. The third one's probably my favourite. I don't know why. I'm a big fan of the third one. Although I like Jet Li, I didn't like the fourth one that much. It was a bit too daft. Saying that, there's no way in hell I'm not going to go and see the fifth one if it comes out.
Yeah, well, that is the case, isn't it? No matter how bad it is, you'll go along and watch it because it's a Lethal Weapon film. I agree with you that the quality of it has diminished from the first being quite a strong. It was an 18 or something when it came out at first, I believe.
Yeah, an action film.
Yeah, and then by the fourth, it was just this knockabout comedy almost. It was just awful. The fourth one was really bad. I thought that killed it. I thought the fourth one did kill the franchise, but obviously not.
It was getting that kind of way that they were getting so much more comical that if you'd watched Loaded Weapon 1,
yeah,
you'd think it was an official sequel.
I really don't know how they're going to do it, though. I mean, Danny Glover is so old now.
He must be 90.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely is too old for this shit, you know?
Aye. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't. And I'd like to think if they don't go down the Die Hard route where they make it too over the top and it just kind of doesn't work tonally from previous films.
Yeah.
I mean, Die Hard also had that kind of human element to it. By the fourth film, as a superhero, it was quite daft. They could pull this off with the right script. I mean, the first film did have its humour. Keep the humour to a respectable level, play to their strengths, don't introduce children to it, don't introduce a new generation. And I really don't know how they'll do it, though. I don't know how they could.
I think they might employ some of the Irishman de-aging technology and just have Danny Glover trying to kick the shit out of somebody at 90 years old. It'll be worse than Robert De Niro.
I love the Irishman, but that scene when he's kicking the guy, you're like...
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But I mean, maybe is it going to just be like Roger Murtaugh, like a wheelchair in a nursing home?
Yeah.
I mean, because Mel Gibson's not getting any younger.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, it is a bit of a strange one. They've talked about this before, and whether anything actually comes of it or not, but it's quite nice to speculate what it would actually be like.
Speaking of the Irishman, I mean, I think that's going to be Joe Pesci's last film. They're going to try and coax him out of retirement for Lethal Weapon 5. He became very much part of that franchise.
That's right. Yeah, of course. So the third and fourth film, wasn't it? He was really heavily involved.
Yeah, he came in. I'm sure the second one when he first came into it. But it was specifically the third and fourth one that it was a main character.
Yeah, Leo Getz, wasn't it? That's his character's name.
I think it was. Yeah. He was good. He was good in the films, to be fair.
Maybe there's a lot of offcuts from The Irishman with Pesci's character that they can use.
They're going to do a Star Wars with Princess Leia. They're just going to use Joey Pesci scenes. But they should just do that with the entire film.
Yep.
Like, have outtakes for Saw in Predator 2. And Braveheart, the Beaver, and just make a movie.
Now that I would pay to see, definitely.
I'd happily go and see that. But speaking of the Weapon, though, have you seen the TV show?
I saw first couple of episodes of it, and I thought it was okay. There's far too much excellent TV out there for me to spend time watching something that's just a bit alright, you know. Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen any of it. I didn't fancy it at all, but I haven't heard a bad thing about it. People who stuck with it absolutely loved it.
I think it's one of these shows that people watch. No, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but they watch out of habit. It's just something. It's like Hawaii Five-0 and things like that as well. Yes. These sort of cop shows that they're okay. It's something to sit and watch, but it's never going to be highly regarded or anything. But I'm sure there must be an audience for it because it's still going, I think. So
fair play. I mean, that's the thing, is you kind of get these shows and you don't watch them, they pass you by, and then you check it's only season 7, and you're like, what? How'd that happen?
I know. It puts you off as well if you actually want to start watching these things, just because there's so much content. And with a lot of the American ones, it's like 22, 23 episodes.
That's true. I'm a big fan of the whole kind of 10, 12 episode arcs.
Yeah, it's nice. Nice and tight. That's what I like.
Is that? That's how we like it.
Yes, well. I'm saying no more.
That's us for another award-winning, successful box office smash Moviescramble podcast. Yeah, shout-outs, John. Any shout-outs you want to give to everybody?
Yes, I have one. Obviously, I've been campaigning heavily over the last couple of podcasts, trying to get somebody to actually send us an email, and it's finally come to fruition. We got one just yesterday from Dylan Watson 755 from Minnesota, saying that he really enjoys the podcast, which was really nice. He really enjoyed our Rise of Skywalker episode and also the Knives Out episode, the top 3 detectives. And he put a request in, as we have been punting for a film that we can review, and he asked us to take a look at 1917, which we have actually done. Dylan, you got your wish, so thank you very much for the email. And if anyone else would like to contact us and suggest something that we could review, that would be very nice indeed. We do look forward to receiving these, and this email was received with undue joy, I think, basically, on my part, and I think Mary was kind of the same as well. But yeah, it's very nice indeed. So thank you very much, Dylan.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dylan. Thanks for the email. Thanks very much for your kind words. And we just really do appreciate the fact that you've been listening and enjoying the podcast. And that goes to everybody out there that's even gave us a little like on social media, a little comment, and even if you said nothing, but you're still enjoying it, you're downloading it, you're playing it, that's great. Yeah. We do it for fun, we do it off our own back, we do it for a laugh, and the most important thing is as long as it's entertaining for you as well. If you just keep listening, we'll keep doing it. Simple as that. And if you do want to get in touch with us, as John said, you could email him, or if you're on Twitter, Facebook, we're there at Moviescramble, Instagram as well. I think our Bebo account's been shut down, but things move on, things change. Well, that was Jojo Rabbit. That was our top 3 imaginary friends. If you're excited about Leaf Letting 5 and you are Mel Gibson, please let us know. I've been Thomas.
All right.
John.
Yep.
Thank you.
I've still been John. Yep. Thanks a lot. See you later, guys. Bye.
See you guys. Take care. Bye.